This book that Mom is reading right there, you can't see the cover, but it says Beyond Infinity, Debunking the Crazy Theory of a Shared Universe, or something like that.
Yeah, so remember in the last video when I mentioned how the people who made this movie revel in making fun of people who theorize about Pixar films?
This was just the goal to destroy the Pixar theory.
Not to mention earlier in the commentary where he frustratingly said,
That's not Boo in the background.
and yet another instance later where he says,
That might be Boo. I don't know.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, maybe not.
in case you're not getting it, let me spell it out for you. These people hate the fact that there is an avid group of Pixar fans who love to theorize about their movies. They preemptively brace for the possibility of people asking whether certain character models who are almost too similar to be a coincidence are meant to be the same person, and are audibly annoyed that they even have to address the topic at all. They openly say without a hint of sarcasm or subsequent laughter that they are trying to destroy the Pixar theory, and then seconds later laugh like a maniacal Disney villain about how clever they are for naming a book essentially straight up calling the Pixar theory crazy. And yes, it's entirely possible that he's lying about what that book says. I certainly wouldn't put it past him at this point. After all, we can't actually verify it since we cannot read what this cover says. But whether the book actually says what he claims it does or if he's lying, it does not matter. Either way, it's still him voicing his beliefs about the Pixar theory. And in case you are completely lost right now and have absolutely no idea what I'm even talking about, then allow me to provide some context. The Pixar theory is the idea that every Pixar movie ever released is just one piece of a larger overarching timeline that begins with Brave and ends with Monsters Inc. I'm not going to go into excruciating detail about all this because we'd be here all day. There is a lot to dissect about this. But if you're interested in learning more, then you can check out the website of the guy who originally concocted the Pixar theory, John Negroni, in the description below. Alternatively, if you'd be more enticed by a video version of the theory, then I will also provide a link to the Super Carlin Brothers video presenting a slightly more truncated version hitting on all the major beats of the Pixar theory for ease of consumption. Or, if you'd rather listen to the video in song form, you can also listen to the Pixar theory song for a lyrical version of a bullet point list for the core fundamentals of the theory. And just so we're crystal clear about this, I am not a proponent of the Pixar theory. In fact, I think that this thing is built on nothing but straw because it depends on certain Easter eggs being absolutely essential, deliberate clues that are meant to link the films together, such as there being a carving of Sully in the Witch's Hut since she's also supposed to be a time-traveling Boo, or the continued presence of companies such as Dynaco or By and Large, or Pizza Planet due to the fact that you see one of their trucks in every single Pixar movie no matter how insanely obscure its placement may be, or this postcard in Andy's room establishing the existence of Carl and Ellie in the Toy Story universe, while simultaneously dismissing certain Easter eggs, such as a Bug's Life showing up as a storybook, as a calendar, and as a toy line in Toy Story 2, or Boo having a Nemo toy, or Doc Hudson showing up in The Incredibles, despite the Pixar theory declaring that there's a difference of almost 2 centuries between these films and this car would be a pile of rust at this point, or Nemo sticker in Toy Story 3, or a picture of Darla and Molly's tween magazine in Toy Story 3, or the exact same tapestry that's present in Brave and Cars 2, or an Arlo toy in Monsters University, or a blatant Finding Nemo reference that no one would have any concept of in Inside Out, or Figment the Goddamn Dragon, or Captain America's shield, or Riley being present in Finding Dory at the same age as Inside Out despite yet another blatant time discrepancy, or Sully's fur being used as a cover for a toilet seat in Partysaurus Rex, or Woody, Buzz, and Mike Wazowski being pinatas in Coco despite the latter not being a character that would exist for another 2 millennia. Alright, I think I get the idea. Dismissing all those as silly, meaningless, fun little Easter eggs. And I'm sorry, but you cannot draw an arbitrary line between which of these are meant to be Easter eggs you're supposed to think are meant for fun, and which are actual in-universe links between films with absolutely no consistent standard whatsoever, and expect me to think that this theory holds up under even the slightest amount of scrutiny. And I am telling you this because I want to make it crystal clear that I have absolutely no stake in this theory being correct. I am not coming at this from the perspective of someone who's upset that their theory was proven false. In fact, the writers telling me that the theory is crazy is only a boon to my position about it being built on straw. But I'm telling you all this because my position on whether or not this theory holds any water whatsoever is literally irrelevant, because this is about how these writers are addressing Pixar fans, some of whom may very well have been around since 1995. And you are directly spitting in their faces by tearing down their speculations and theories for no reason other than your pride. In stark contrast to other Pixar directors such as Pete Docter with his unblemished record of directing Monsters Inc., Up, Inside Out, and Soul, who actively contribute to the discussion surrounding the theories, you are sitting there laughing up a storm about how cool it is that you guys have made it your mission to destroy the Pixar theory and how crazy fans are for believing in it. There is a very, very sizable portion of Pixar's fan base that loves speculating about potential theories for this series of movies, both in terms of theories that are confined within the universe of a given movie, and theories that attempt to link the films together into one giant timeline to tell one huge story. I am not a proponent of this idea, but you will never hear me decry or in any way impugn the creativity and thoroughness that Pixar theorists are capable of. But if you're Josh Cooley, you just talk like a maniacal Disney villain and say, "Mwahaha, look at these foolish mortals scrambling like ants caught in a rainstorm, trying to grasp at any straw that they can to prove the existence of their laughable Pixar theory. Well, I'll show them. I'll show them all. I'll litter my movie with more Easter eggs than any previous Pixar film and make it a selling point to prove how much better I am than other Pixar directors. And to destroy the Pixar theory so these theorists stop forcing their speculations into my story once and for all. Who can stop me now?" Alright, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but my point still stands. Imagine if the writers of any other highly theorizable franchise were to so callously laugh about the insanity of the theories of their fanbase. Imagine if Team Salvato saw people's theories about Project Libitina and struck them down, insulting people for even trying to figure it out. Imagine if the people uploading creepypasta-style videos like Petscop or Local 58 were to go through their comments and call them out for speculating on the meaning of some of those videos. Imagine if the makers of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared did this. Imagine if Bendy did this. Imagine if, and I can't believe I'm saying this, imagine if NBC or Jeff Rake ever spoke out against their fans for having the passion for their story to want to speculate on what it means and where it might go in the future. Manifest is doing a better job of this than you are. Let that sink in for a moment. And could you even imagine if Scott Coffin ever demanded that people stop theorizing about the story of his games? The FNAF franchise would have died immediately. Oh, you know how I mentioned DHMIS earlier? Well, as it turns out, there was actually an interview that was conducted with the showrunners. And what did they have to say about theorists? "We have read a lot of theories online about what it all means, and they are all correct. Because YouTubers making a passion project for fun, funded out of their own pockets, have a better understanding of how to address fan theories and the people that craft them than professional directors and producers working for the most successful animation studio in the world. It's actually pathetic." So not only do they think their casual fans are brain dead enough to not notice the glaring problems with their movie, but they also think that their hardcore theorist fans are straight up insane for believing in a shared universe theory. Congratulations, you talentless Muppets. You've pissed off yet another group of people watching these films. I truly don't know how you do it. Well, I guess we should finally return to the plot and see how much more the script can run itself off a cliff. Cutting back to the rest of the toys who Woody left in the RV, they've attempted to conceal Forkface's absence by doing an over the hedge and swapping out the spork for a metal spoon, and I do not understand what in the world they thought they were going to accomplish by doing this. Literally, what was the point? Bonnie wasn't going to notice that Forkface wasn't in her hand while she was asleep because she was, you know, asleep. She would have been too lost in a dream to notice anything. Or even if she wasn't dreaming, she would still be unconscious. The reason why RJ has to swap out the can of Spuddies and over the hedge is because to remove it from Vincent's grip is to change the state of his body. If you remove the can without replacing it, his hand will move from tightly gripped to open and limp. So the idea is to replace it with something of similar shape and weight so his sleep cycle wouldn't be interrupted. But you aren't trying to replace Forkface with something else here. You're trying to retroactively place something in her hand hours after she lost the spork. Forkface fell out of her hand because her grip naturally loosened as she adjusted in the booster seat. If she didn't wake up to notice he was gone after he was initially lost, and she didn't wake up after her parents apparently relocated her from her booster seat to the bed, then there is absolutely no way she was going to realize that Forkface was missing until she woke up. And please don't tell me you think the reason that they put the spoon there is so that she'd still think that she had Forkface after she woke up, because that makes even less sense. As evidenced by what happens in this movie, she immediately realizes that a metal spoon is not the same thing as a plastic spork with a face, mouth, arms, and feet. This was never going to work. She was obviously going to realize that Forkface was gone the instant she opened her eyes, whether there was a spoon in her bed or not. So it just makes you wonder why they bothered doing this in the first place. What did you think this was going to accomplish? What was the point? Also, there's just this little blink and you miss it detail that I find extremely interesting. A major plot point earlier in the film is that the writers desperately want you to believe that Bonnie loves Jessie more than she loves Woody. And yet, you can clearly see that she's chosen to write her name on both Woody and Buzz, but Jessie's boot is entirely clean, which is doubly interesting because not only did she not write her name on any of them for years, meaning this had to be a recent development, but also that she painted over Andy's name and didn't write her own name as a replacement on the toy that they want you to believe she loves more than Woody. Awesome. Moving on, Bonnie wakes up and has a panic attack because Forkface is gone, so her parents take her outside to look for him, which doesn't make any sense at all because Bonnie's been asleep all night and was holding on to him when she went to bed, and since they don't know the toys are alive, how exactly do they think the spork made its way outside. Alright, they're leaving so that the toys can have an excuse to come alive again and carry on with the plot. Awesome. So then Buzz tells everyone that Woody was right all along and they all should have been looking after Forkface. And this should be the moment, after staring her kid directly in the face and witnessing with her own eyes how distraught Bonnie gets without this stupid spork, where Dolly apologizes for being a complete...
I can't say.
But nah, she never apologizes for how she acted or for how wrong she was, and absolutely nobody holds her accountable for her actions. I certainly hope there aren't any other characters moving forward that aren't held accountable for their actions. They're much, much, much more despicable actions. That would be awkward. But it's not just Dolly who's at fault here. I mean, she's undoubtedly the biggest offender given how needlessly rude and dismissive she was. But nobody other than Buzz even offered to help Woody with Forkface, nor did they take him seriously at all when he told them all how important Forkface was to her. Which is insane because, as I already mentioned earlier, he knows his kid better than anyone. He always has and he always will. The fact that it took until now for everyone else to realize how important this spork was to Bonnie is ridiculous. Anyway, the other toys start freaking out and crowding around Buzz, asking him what to do, only instead of treating this like a serious situation, they just...
Buzz, what do we do?
What do we do, Buzz? Buzz, what do we do? What do we do, Buzz? What do we do, Buzz? Buzz.
Like, I don't... What are you doing? What is this scene? You've never acted like this before. You've never cartoonishly circled around Buzz begging him to tell you what to do. What is happening? But the way the other toys react to Woody not having returned with Forkface is like a slap on the wrist compared to how Buzz acts in this scene. Buzz Lightyear is mentally overwhelmed by all the toys asking him what to do. He just sits by the window like a dazed penguin, staring off into space with his mouth hung open as if he literally cannot process what is happening around him. But then, as if that wasn't bad enough, Buzz does this.
It's a secret mission in uncharted space. Let's go!
I think I have to go.
Where are you going?
Are you kidding me? Are you actually kidding me? This is what you've done with Buzz Lightyear! Hey, remember in Toy Story 3 when all the toys were getting hysterical and he took charge of the situation?
Sarge was right.
Yeah, and Woody was wrong.
Wait a minute, hold on. This is no time to be hysterical.
It's the perfect time to be hysterical.
Should we be hysterical?
Now, yes.
Maybe, but not right now.
And... Really? You're just making him push the buttons on his chest to tell him what to do? You can't just let him think for himself? What are you doing? What is this scene? What have you done to Buzz's character? Okay, you know what? No, we're stopping this dead in its tracks. I briefly alluded to this earlier, but I'm not gonna be brief about anything anymore. I refuse to let this stand. Buzz Lightyear's character is assassinated in this film. He's mercilessly eviscerated. The person he is in this movie is not even kinda comparable to the person he was in the original trilogy. He was remarkably intelligent in those first two movies. In fact, I might even go as far as to say that he's the smartest character in the entire series. And if your knee-jerk response to me saying that is, lol, Buzz was an idiot in the first movie.
So he thought Andy's room was a planet? Wow, that is messed up.
Lol, how could he be so stupid? Shut the hell up, you ridiculous person. People have unironically said this before, and I swear to God, if I see even one more person spread this moronic sentiment around, I'm gonna blow a gasket. If you think that this is a perfectly acceptable counterargument to the idea that Buzz is an intelligent character, then sit down and listen up while I explain to you how Buzz was portrayed in the original trilogy and how much Toy Story 4 butchered him without a care in the world. You are correct about one thing and one thing only. When Buzz arrives in Andy's room, he believes that he has crash landed on an uncharted planet. And so, he makes a lot of decisions that don't quite make sense with the information that we have. For instance, he tries to repair his cardboard spaceship. He freaks out and thinks that he's gonna suffocate to death when Woody lifts his helmet. He thinks the crane game is an actual rocket ship, etc, etc. But the reason why you and I realize that those are silly events to occur is because we have the benefit of knowledge that he is really a toy. That his spaceship is made out of cardboard, that he's on Earth, and that this is a pizzeria with an arcade. And intelligence is not measured by how much knowledge someone has. That's why knowledge and intelligence are two different words in the dictionary. You can be an intelligent person but still lack information that is necessary for you to make proper decisions. So, you can call Buzz ignorant for believing that he is a real space ranger, but you cannot call him stupid for it, especially when that is how he is programmed. Buzz freaking out upon his helmet being opened is a logical response if you believe that you are on an uncharted planet with a potentially toxic atmosphere. In fact, with the information that Buzz has available to him, he actually makes incredibly smart choices throughout the entirety of the first film. He believes that his ship has been broken, and so he sets up a rudimentary repair station and makes use of the materials he has available to him to try to fix it. When Woody and Buzz are hitching a ride aboard the space freighter, the two have this exchange of dialogue.
Well then, let's climb aboard.
No, wait, Buzz. Let's get in the back. No one will see us there.
Negative. There are no restraining harnesses in the cargo area. We'll
We'll be much safer in the cockpit.
Remember, Buzz doesn't think he needs to freeze in front of all humans, just Andy, as that is a part of what he considers to be the culture of Andy's room. As far as he's concerned, the only danger involved in getting into the space freighter is the turbulence that you may experience throughout the journey. So he chooses to stow away in the location where he can safely secure himself to prepare for said turbulence. A minute later, when they arrive at Pizza Planet, he says this.
Now, the entrance is heavily guarded. We need a way to get inside.
He understands they need to take precautions so that they are not spotted when trying to sneak into the spaceport. Even the idea to use the cup and food container as disguises is his idea, because the only reason Woody has this on his head is because he was tossed around during the ride. Buzz realizes the daunting task at hand, sees the cup, and then realizes, aha, we can use these things to hide as we sneak in. And the hits just keep on coming. In Sid's house, Buzz's first reaction upon being surrounded by cannibals is to dive for cover and immediately call for backup because he understands that he and Woody likely can't fend them off by himself. It is only after calling for backup and not getting a response that he resorts to needing to fight them off by himself and setting his laser from stun to kill. He knows that he is in serious danger and he believes that his laser is a fully functional weapon. He is using literally every resource available to him in this unfamiliar location to try to protect himself and Woody. More evidence? Sure, why not? When Woody notices that the door to Sid's room is open, he is ecstatic and blinded by the possibility of being able to escape once and for all. But Buzz is more reserved and cautious, saying that,
What if you don't know what's out there?
Buzz doesn't want to jump into the unknown when he's in uncharted territory with absolutely no intel on what potentially dangerous creatures could be waiting outside for them. And when a predator is poised to attack them, his instinct is for the two of them to split up because Scud can't chase both of them at once. And that is a full summation of every single major decision Buzz makes throughout the first movie, excluding when he comes up with the plan to use his wings to break the seal on the rocket and saving both their lives, but whatever. And they were all very smart and reasonable decisions to make given the information he knows, the situation he's in, and the resources he has available to him. He may be ignorant to the fact that he is a toy, but a person's ignorance is not equivalent to their intelligence. So stop shoving that excuse down my throat because it doesn't hold up under even the slightest amount of scrutiny. But I'm not even done proving that Buzz is a smart character yet. We still got 2 more movies to go, friends. Because for some insane reason, there is a disturbing number of people on this planet that genuinely believe that Buzz Lightyear was never a smart character, and I am so far beyond sick of seeing the sentiment circulating. So let's crush this defense into pieces once and for all. The core conflict in Toy Story 2 is that Woody is kidnapped by Al and the toys need to rescue him. But before they can begin the rescue mission, they have to figure out where they even need to go in the first place. And who's the one to figure that out? Buzz Lightyear. He only has 2 clues to work with: a feather that falls out of Al's car and the license plate, LZTYBRN. And that is all it takes to get the job done. With just these 2 pieces of evidence, he is able to solve the license plate puzzle to realize that it's short for Al's Toy Barn, and uses the feather, which indicates the mascot of that toy store, to link the 2 pieces of logic together. That is Kyoko Kirigiri levels of deductive abilities, and this happens within the first 20 minutes of the movie. From that point on, the one who leads the team to rescue Woody is Buzz. He's in charge of the rescue mission, and he commands the team every step of the way from the moment they leave the room to the final battle at the airport, with the obvious reference being the crossing the street scene. The plan to use the traffic cones as a disguise as they cross the road is ingenious, and it is entirely Buzz's idea, because there's no other way for them to cross without the drivers noticing the toys walking around. And even if they don't notice them, that's even worse, because then they just get run over immediately, as evidenced by the end of the first movie when the drivers can't see Woody or Buzz, and they are nearly flattened multiple times as a result. But a traffic cone is big, bright, and obvious, and impossible to miss, giving drivers plenty of time to react by either slamming the brakes or swerving around them while being completely unaware that there are sentient toys inside them. And throughout the entire scene, he is the one issuing commands and determining when it's safe to drop and when it isn't. He figures out how to trigger the automatic doors both times. The first time, he realizes that to replicate the presence of a human, they all need to jump simultaneously. The second time, when he's racing the clock to catch up with Al, he quickly analyzes his environment and immediately figures out how to use everything around him to his advantage to try to catch up before the doors shut. And when that doesn't work, he finds other weighted objects to trigger the doors. And from the moment that the prospector seals the vent in Al's apartment to the moment that he victoriously hoists him up at the airport, Buzz is the one leading the final charge to rescue Woody. It's all him issuing commands. He instantly orders everyone back to the elevator. He devises a way to reach Al's suitcase stealthily from the elevator escape hatch without dropping down himself. When he realizes that the only way to catch up to Al in time is to hit the road, he instantly figures out how he can use everyone's abilities together to collectively be able to drive this truck all by themselves. I want to draw extra attention to that one before we move on. He figures out a way for a group of toys, only one of whom has the full body functionality of a standard human, to take all the actions a single human would need to engage in to control this thing, and he puts this plan together in a matter of seconds. And it is because of that that they are successfully able to reach the airport in time, leading to him instinctively ordering everyone to split up to look for Woody when the clock is ticking on how long it'll be before they lose those suitcases forever, and the final charge to grab the prospector using the cameras to his advantage. Then we have Toy Story 3. When all the toys are stuck in the trash bag, Buzz is the one to figure out how to escape by using Rex's tail to break free. When he needs to escape the caterpillar room, he's the one who notices the transom, devises the escape plan, and commands everyone with the same caliber as he did in the Pizza Planet truck, using almost everything in this room to engage in an incredible feat to reach that transom and escape the room. The result of a plan that was entirely of his making. When he reverts to Space Ranger mode, he uses his laser to try to break free from the bin because, as we recall from the first movie, he believes that this laser is a viable weapon. And when he realizes the laser isn't gonna work, he waits for Rex and Ham to walk to one side of the bin and then uses the balance offset to his advantage to break free and make a run for the exit. At the dump, the instant that they realize they're on a path leading to death, he immediately, without hesitation, tells everyone to grab onto something magnetic to pull them up to the ceiling and get them out of danger. In the small fry short, oh, you didn't think we were stopping at the movies, did you? Oh, no, we're still going. Even the writers of the 5-minute shorts meant to act as opening acts for other movies had a better grasp of Buzz's character than this meandering buffoon. He thinks of a way to deceive the delusional therapy toys by using the grappling hook to escape. In Toy Story of Terror, he serves as the leader of the team sent to find Mr. Potato Head, ordering everyone to divide and conquer to cover as much ground as possible while still keeping his searching buddies so there's a lesser chance of getting lost. He creates a makeshift zipline out of the shoddy resources he has available to him so the team can safely descend from the vent above, and in Toy Story The Time Forgot, he's the one who deduces the cleric's plan all by himself. There is absolutely no wiggle room here. Buzz Lightyear is not stupid. He is incredibly intelligent, and there are references throughout the entire Toy Story series that I've used to definitively prove so. To take this character, who has consistently devised elaborate plans and when said plans go awry has also consistently been able to make smart split-second decisions when the situation called for a cool head, and turn him into an airheaded, slow-witted, timid cabbage is nothing short of insulting, not just to his character, but to every single person around the world who loved Buzz Lightyear and admired his intelligence and his bravado, of which he demonstrates neither here. His portrayal in this movie is so contradictory to the person we knew and loved from the series prior to this point that you may as well just call him Buzz Buzz-a-Diddle-Lip. But as if that wasn't bad enough, he has to be told by the stupid buttons on his chest to go look for Woody when he hasn't come back all night. Buzz off with this garbage. No way in the world Buzz would need to be told to go search for his best friend when he needs help. Remember in the first movie when he didn't even hesitate to put himself at risk and jump onto Scout when Woody was in danger? Remember in Toy Story 2 when he sees Woody being kidnapped and leaps out the window to get him back without even a second of hesitation? Or how about Toy Story 3's pulse-pounding climax, when Woody's good-hearted nature will not allow him to condemn Lotso to death, even after all the horrors he committed and the tyrannical society that he crafted under the guise of Sunnyside Daycare, he won't let him get shredded up because that is how kind-hearted he is. So he drops down from the safety of the magnet and risks his life to free Lotso from under the weight of the golf bag. But if Woody's gonna put himself on the line to try to free Lotso, then so is Buzz. It's not even a question. There is no thought process here. He doesn't even hesitate. He immediately drops down because, as he puts it,
Woody once risked his life to save me. I couldn't call myself his friend if I weren't willing to do the same.
Their relationship was consistently phenomenal throughout the series. Neither one would have left the other behind if they were in danger, no matter what. They were willing to risk everything for each other, and if Woody was going down, then Buzz was gonna go down with him. Buzz never had a single moment of hesitation if Woody was in danger and needed his help. So now, let's compare these masterful scenes to this schlock.
It's a secret mission in uncharted space. Let's go!
I think I have to go.
So, again, Cooley, this is another genuine response from me. Kindly f*** you. You don't even have the most basic understanding of Buzz's character from any angle, and if you do, and choose to ignore it for the sake of a joke, or other malicious reasons, then that is even worse, and there is no excuse for what you've done here. In only a handful of seconds, you have destroyed Buzz Lightyear as a character after 3 incredible movies of build-up, and a handful of shorts and TV specials that still managed to keep him consistent. And believe it or not, he's still not done destroying Buzz. But we'll get to those scenes later. Even Jessie doesn't escape this scene unscathed. She just stands idly by while Buzz jumps out the window? What? What are you talking about? Jessie was never this passive. Remember in the first video when I was talking about how adventurous she was? Reveling in the battle with Woody, leaping into action to help Buster, leading everyone out of their cells, trapping Buzz, getting to the playground, standing up to Lotso, jumping to help Woody in the dumpster, fighting fiercely and bravely against the iguana to save her friends from the hands of Ron? I mean, for Christ's sake, she was enthusiastically egging everyone on to ensure a dinner went well. A goddamn dinner! You are actually hilarious if you think for even a second that Jessie would be willing to sit around in the RV while Buzz goes on an adventure without her, especially given how their relationship was left off at the end of Toy Story 3. Who are you people? How did you get this job? What are you doing to this script? No, scratch that. What are you doing to these characters? Do you understand what you're doing, or do you just not care at all about the irreparable damage that you are dealing to the Toy Story series because you are so desperate to maliciously and meticulously destroy everything that, Well, perhaps I'm getting ahead of myself again. And so Buzz jumps out the window in search of Woody and...
Okay, what is with everyone jumping out the window?
Dolly, you arrogant little waffle. Not 10 seconds ago, you all came to the conclusion that Woody was right, all along with what Bonnie needed and how important Forkface was, when you spent the entire movie up until this point being condescending to Woody and telling him that he was being over-dramatic about Forkface. You are in absolutely no position to be snarky about what Buzz is doing right now. Get off your soapbox before your massive ego-driven head causes you to lose your balance and fall off the box to your doom. So then Buzz runs off into the carnival to search for Woody, and then they... Well, what do you know? It's the same exact music they played in the beginning of Toy Story 2 when Buzz arrived on Zurg's planet. How... interesting. No, to the incinerator with it. I'm done being subtle about this. You know all those instances prior to this point throughout this series? And let me assure you there will be many, many more instances in the future. When I pointed out how the music they played is a one-for-one replay of a track from the original trilogy, well, there was a point to all of that, and it's finally time to talk about what that point is. The only song that was repeated throughout the original trilogy was You've Got a Friend in Me. Almost every single instrumental piece that played in the background of a dramatic character moment or intense action sequence was entirely unique to that movie and that movie alone. There may be instances within the films when tracks are repeated for dramatic effect. For instance, the theme that plays during Woody's finest hour on the TV is the same one that plays during Woody's actual finest hour at the airport. But each film has entirely unique soundtracks from one another. Toy Story 4, on the other hand, is almost entirely comprised of tracks that have been used in the original trilogy, and that is true from the opening seconds of the film during the logos. Why is this the case? Well, it's because of a little thing called nostalgia pandering. Nostalgia pandering is, in layman's terms, the act of taking something from a previous installment in your franchise, such as a piece of imagery or iconic character, or, in this case, piece of music, that is easily and immediately recognizable, and shoving it into your story for the sake of pandering to an audience's nostalgia. It's essentially a misuse of fan service, because believe it or not, the simple act of including fan service in a story does not inherently mean it's bad. Fan service can be used to brilliant effect if given the proper in-universe context for it to have more than just superficial meaning. But simply playing the soundtrack from an earlier entry in your franchise does not automatically earn your story any points if the narrative justification for the music is built on straw or, at worst, blatantly insulting to the work that came before it. You need more than that for your scene to have substance. Is the reason why people reacted positively to this scene because it actually had substance in either character or plot to support it? Or is it simply as shallow as the fact that you are hearing the same music you heard when you were a kid? Because judging by the comments on the YouTube uploads for these tracks, the answer becomes pretty damn clear. It really is that shallow. There is nothing more to this beyond the fact that they are playing the music that you heard when you were a kid, and that's all they were trying to accomplish. Because it's so easy to do it nowadays. Why bother putting effort into your scripts when you can just dangle the shiny toys in front of your audience and play the sounds your brain remembers like when you were a child? It's literally as easy as dragging and dropping the track into the editing timeline and calling it a day. It's actually pathetic, and it is mind-boggling that these people still have the audacity to say this.
Randy did an amazing job of calling back to themes just enough but that it feels familiar, but we're not relying on it completely to carry the whole scene. It's just that a little bit of a flavor.
What do you mean you're not relying on the nostalgia? That's all you've been doing this entire time! You just dangle the keys in front of the audience. You do the same camera wipes. You use the same backgrounds, only without the full circle conclusion that Toy Story 3 had. And you play the same music tracks from the original trilogy as if you're just dragging and dropping and calling it a day. You've been doing this since the opening seconds of the damn movie, and people's reactions were exactly the same in that scene. Relying on nostalgia is all you people know how to do. At least own up to it already. Oh, whatever. Buzz runs through the carnival and isn't even a little bit concerned that he might be spotted. How does nobody see him? It's mid-morning at a carnival that is obviously very populated. How in the world does nobody see the toy running past them? He literally runs out onto the ground of a ride that is currently operational and absolutely nobody spots him. Actually, how does this happen? How do the people in line for the ride not see him running? How does the ride operator not see him? How did nobody that just so happens to be waltzing by notice him? Why are the people in this movie totally blind compared to the people from the original trilogy? Okay, so Buzz decides that since Woody and Forkface were last seen along the highway, his mission should be to find his way towards the highway and commence a proper search for them there. And he's going to accomplish that task by by holding on to the spinning ride and then using it to slingshot himself toward the highway. Look, Buzz soaring through the air is not the unbelievable part of this scene. We know he's been able to fly since the first movie. Or fall with style, as it were. The part that makes this plan absolutely ridiculous is the simple question of what are you going to do when you land? The plan in the first movie was simple. Glide far enough to get above the car, then drop through the sunroof and land safely on a cushioned surface before being finally reunited with Andy. But there is no cushioned seating or padded box to land in here. What did you think was going to happen here? If you actually managed to soar all the way to the highway, you wouldn't have been able to make a proper landing. You would have either bonked into a tree and exploded instantly or skidded across the road before being subsequently ripped to pieces upon impact. What was this moronic plan? Anyway, Buzz's plan fails because of course it did. Remember, Buzz is a moron now. He's not capable of thinking of intelligent plans anymore. And so a different ride spins into the perfect position to block Buzz's trajectory at an extremely inconvenient moment because the script is built on nothing but contrivance, and so he explodes into the ride and Buzz Lightyear dies. Oh wait, no he doesn't. Instead, he just comically bounces off the ride and then proceeds to be ping-ponged around a bunch of other obstacles throughout the carnival before somehow landing on his feet and then being bonked to the side by some random dude stumbling out of the porta potty. And what? Buzz should have been instantly demolished the second he hit that ride. He was slingshotted away with enough momentum to send him soaring through the air. There is absolutely no reason why all his limbs should still be attached to his body right now. Do you guys remember in the last video when I broke down how powerful Buzz's realization scene is? Well, a major point of that scene was the fact that Buzz's arm broke off after he failed to fly through the air and crashed against the stairs. And that was only after falling from the top of the stairs. Buzz is soaring through the air at an incredibly high velocity in this scene. If this fall was enough to break him, then he should have exploded into a bunch of tiny pieces after this crash. And this one, and this one, and this one. You are dead. You are very dead. You don't survive this. There's no way. Also, after Buzz lands, he's swatted away by the porta potty door, meaning he would either be swept up behind the door or sent flying very far in this direction. Yet one shot later, the dude doesn't even take an extra step outside the thing, nor does he close the door, and somehow Buzz is magically right in front of him at his feet? How? That's not how physics. What is this movie? What is happening anymore? Who wrote this? So then the toilet dude picks Buzz up and hangs him in his carnival game as a top prize, leaving him trapped there. Maybe you shouldn't have listened to the pre-recorded lines from your voice box and actually thought for yourself. But no, remember, Buzz sucks now. He's really stupid, actually. Such a silly, stupid toy that nobody should like anymore. I hate this movie so goddamn much. Moving on, Woody's having playtime with a little girl whose name is Harmony, and it is very clear that she's having a lot of fun playing with Woody. She loved him from the moment she picked him up and is clearly still enjoying playing with him on the swing set. Then her mom calls her over to the bench to put sunscreen on her, and Harmony tells Woody that she'll be right back, only for him to leap off the swing set seconds later and completely abandon her as he slithers across the ground like a snake. Hey Woody, why'd you leave the girl who was clearly loving playing with you? If you believe so wholeheartedly that Bonnie is done playing with you, then why not give up on her and make lifelong memories for this new girl? Oh right, because Woody would never leave his friends or his kid for any reason ever. Silly me. How could I have ever thought of something so stupid? Please remember this for later. But even then, he doesn't show even a hint of remorse for abandoning this girl who's now going to think that someone stole her toy. And since there's about to be a whole busload of cameras that gets dropped off on the playground, she's probably going to go around interrogating every single one of these kids trying to figure out which one of them stole her cowboy doll, which might end in physical altercation. Brilliant job, Woody. Hey, remember in Toy Story 3 when Woody felt bad about leaving Bonnie but knew that he had to in order to both return to Andy, who was freaking out over losing his toys, and to rescue his friends from Sunnyside? And you know how after it was all over, he brought all the toys back to Bonnie so his friends could have a new loving home and she'd have even more awesome toys to play with after he abandoned her the first time? Yeah, well, not here. He doesn't care at all about abandoning Harmony. Awesome. You'd love to see it. So Woody spots the carnival, which he knows is right next to the antique store, and hops in a nearby toy truck, setting off on a quest to rescue Forkface from the clutches of Annabelle and her army of Chucky dolls. But unfortunately for him, a busload of cameras just so happens to be rolling in at this exact time, thus preventing him from getting any further. Gee, how unlucky! Yet another instance of things just happening to go wrong for the main characters at every available opportunity without any sense of logic or cause and effect to justify it. It's almost like this script is built on straw or something like that. But wait, it gets worse! Upon seeing the bus pull up to the park, he jumps out of the truck? Why did you do that? The whole point of riding in the truck was to stay hidden from other people. A random toy truck rolling down the street won't draw suspicion, but a cowboy doll neurotically running around all over the place definitely will. Need proof of this? The truck keeps rolling onward after Woody abandons it, and not a single one of the kids notices. If he had just stayed in the truck, he would have been able to slip away entirely unnoticed and then keep on moving towards the antique shop. But fine, let's assume that you just didn't want to risk one of the kids picking up the truck and further derailing your mission. Your actions here are still stupid because the very next thing he does after jumping out of that truck is to run back towards the playground. What? What are you doing? What is the point of that? You are running towards the same place where all the kids are going. If your goal is to not be noticed, then why have you picked the single stupidest manner in which to go about doing this? Why not just hide behind the trash can? There is a wide enough gap between the corner of the can and the fence where you would be entirely hidden from the vantage point of all the kids running towards you. And you can use the foliage to further conceal yourself. Why are you running back to the playground? You literally just jumped out of the truck right next to the garbage can. What are you doing? Who wrote this? This whole scene is just Woody fumbling around like an intoxicated zebra, getting himself into more and more trouble each time. Why did you jump into the sandbox? It is, by design, a place for children to jump into and play around in. What happened to you? What happened to the character who single-handedly devised the plan to break out of both Sid's house and Sunnyside and had absolutely no trouble improvising on the fly whenever something went wrong? Who are you? What did you do to Woody? He should not be this bad at staying hidden. He should not be this bad at staying away from the kids. There are so many different ways that he could have gotten out of this park without being noticed by any of the campers, and he chose to take advantage of approximately none of them because Woody's an idiot all of a sudden. Why have they done this, you may ask? Well, aside from an unapologetic attempt to assassinate Woody and strip him of all of his intelligence just like they did to Buzz, the writers have to contrive a reason for Woody to stay in the park because it's time for him to be reunited with none other than Bo Peep herself! No, I'm not kidding. I'm not lying to you. This is real. This actually happens in the movie. She's here, in this town, in this park, at this exact moment in time, and being played with by the exact same kid who picks up Woody so they can stare each other in the face! I can't believe this garbage! This script is hemorrhaging. It's bleeding out as we speak and no one's doing anything to treat it. The chain of events that led to these two toys reuniting is that Bonnie's family just so happened to decide to go on a road trip the day after kindergarten orientation, which led to them just so happening to bring Woody to the one store in the entire world where Bo Peep could have been taken to, which is even more insane when you watch the Lamplight short, which reveals that Bo Peep was taken all around the world and even overseas during her time between being owned by Molly and the antique shop and could literally have ended up at any one of these locations, but she just so happened to land at the only spot that Woody stumbled into on the road trip, which then led to Woody just so happening to see her lights being projected onto the ground, which aside from failing to make any mechanical sense is an insane leap of logic because she is not the only Bo Peep in the entire world, yet he just immediately assumes that it has to be the one that he knew, which led to him just so happening to bump into Annabelle on the way out of the antique store, which led to Four-Face's arm just so happening to slip off of his body for some stupid reason, not to mention the fact that all of these events just so happened to occur on the day that Harmony came into the shop to look around for cool things, thus allowing her to just so happen to cross paths with Woody and luckily decide that he was a toy worth taking, and that she just so happened to have plans to go to the very same playground where Bo Peep was residing at because apparently she didn't make it too far past the antique shop after breaking out, a playground that just so happened to be visited by a busload of campers right as Woody was about to leave, which led to Woody just so happening to see her sheep despite the fact that he was looking in the complete opposite direction of where they were running, and that he just so happened to be picked up by the one kid in the entire playground who happened to be holding on to Bo Peep already! Who wrote this? Who wrote that? Who assembled this script? Who put together a chain of events so absolutely insane that it almost relies on more contrivances and luck than the domino effect leading to the brainwashing of the Hope Peak Academy students? Because yes, we are on that level here, people. Just because it has a shinier coat of paint and a bigger budget doesn't absolve it from bad writing. In fact, at this point, Toy Story 4 is on track to dethrone Danganronpa 3 as the worst piece of content that I've ever consumed, which is really saying something. But you know who else is really saying something?
Of all the sandboxes and all the playgrounds and all the world, he comes running into mine.
No, shut up! Stop it! Stop doing this! Stop calling out how your story makes absolutely no sense and then just moving on as if it's perfectly acceptable. It's getting on my nerves! Now, there's a lot to go through in this next scene. A lot of garbage that's gonna make your head want to explode. I'll run you through the whole scene, and then we'll talk about it. So the kid puts down both Woody and Bo, running to go play on the swings, and Woody breaks free from Toy Mode to talk to Bo, but she instinctively swings her crook down to stop him from moving since there's a kid running toward them. Once the kid runs past, she leaps to her feet and pulls Woody along with her, flips up a frisbee on the ground, uses it as a shield to block themselves from view, and then runs alongside it as they are then launched over the barrier of the playground and into the foliage. And all I can do is just sit there with my jaw on the floor thinking, what? What did I just watch? What just unfolded on my screen in the last 10 seconds? Where do I even begin dissecting this? Okay, so first of all, stop making Woody out to be an idiot. He knows better than this. He knows not to stand up in the middle of a crowded playground as kids are running towards him. Why do you keep cutting down his character?
Ultimately, we wanted to show that Woody's out of his element and Bo knows exactly what she's doing. She plays on this playground all the time.
No! Cannon with this garbage! Woody is not out of his element. He has more experience dealing with this stuff than any of the other toys in the room. He's been around since the late 50s! He would never do this. He's not this absent-minded. And don't think you've pulled the wool over the eyes of the audience here, writers. It's blatantly obvious what you're trying to do. You want to show off how totally awesome and competent your new character is, because let's be clear here, the way in which Bo was portrayed in this film is so radically different from how she was portrayed in the first two movies that she may as well be an entirely different character. But instead of simply showing off how she's awesome in her own right, you have to retroactively make Woody look like an idiot in order to gaslight the audience into thinking that he was always this stupid, so they can be blown away by how cool Bo is now. It's the same thing that happened in Apollo Justice Ace Attorney. How do we make people care about our new characters? Oh, I know! Make the old Phoenix out to be a depressed loser who can't do anything for himself, and make Emma Skye into Oscar the Grouch who has given up on life. Apollo and Tracy look so awesome compared to these two losers now, don't they? Stop it! Stop doing this! Writers around the world, please listen to me. If you want to introduce a totally awesome new character that you want people to love, you don't have to make your old characters look like useless idiots in comparison to achieve that effect. When you introduce Professor Layton into the Ace Attorney series, you don't need to have every single character praise this man like a god and actively decry Phoenix as a useless muppet who can't do anything for himself. You can have each character stand out in their own right and contribute equally to the fight, so you actually have a team dynamic where you can accept these new characters as a part of the group. You can introduce your new character and give them their own development and spotlight and compelling personality without demeaning the characters we're already familiar with. It is possible. It can be done. These games did it marvelously. You can do it. Or you can do what Toy Story 4 does and make all your old characters look like trash so your new characters will look comparatively better. It is such slimy, manipulative, unmitigated gaslighting garbage that I will not stand for it for even a second. Also, this will not be the last time that this movie tries to demean Woody's competence to make Bo look amazing. So please keep all this in mind for later. Second, they cheat again! Remember at the end of the last video when I showed how the animators cheated you with these two shots to trick you into thinking that it made any sense for Forkface's arms to come off? Well, they did it again, only this time it's much more egregious. Because in this shot, Woody and Bo are right next to the merry-go-round and they start running off in this direction, only to then, in the very next shot, suddenly teleport halfway across the playground, having moved in this direction apparently, underneath the monkey bars. Which is a pretty significant change in locations because the only reason why they're able to escape this park unseen is due to using the frisbee as cover between themselves and the kids so they can't see them. But in order to get to the frisbee, they would have had to sneak past all these kids without any of them noticing. How do you make this mistake? I don't understand. How did nobody notice this? And it wouldn't even be hard to fix. Just move the frisbee from here to here in the scene and then that's it. Problem solved. You've done it. Except, oh wait, no you haven't, because third, this frisbee isn't doing anything for you. All the kids are on that side of the frisbee. If even a single one of them happened to glance your way, you'd be done for. The only people who won't be able to see you anymore from that side is the audience. This is utterly useless. You may as well have just run off without the frisbee if you were gonna be stupid about it. In fact, you might have had a lesser chance of being noticed because just like the traffic cones, a brightly colored large object is a lot more likely to draw attention than two tiny toys. And once again, this is such an easy fix. Just flip the frisbee around so that they're on the other side of it. Literally just rotate the object around. How do you keep screwing this up? How incompetent are you? Finally, why are they launched over the edge and into the foliage? They aren't riding on the frisbee, they're walking behind it. So unless they ran over an invisible springboard, they should not have been launched into the trees. They should have just clambered over the pegs and then they'd have been safely out of sight from the kids. Why did this happen? Surely you didn't just place an imaginary springboard there to randomly send them flying through the air for some dramatic effect, whether or not it made any sense at all. Surely you'd never do something like that. Oh, and one last thing. Recognize this music? But remember, guys,
we're not relying on it completely to carry the whole scene.
Their soundtrack is almost entirely comprised 100% of music from the original trilogy, but they're definitely not relying on nostalgia. And so, Woody and Bo are officially reunited as Woody awkwardly tries to hug her despite Bo very deliberately keeping her at arm's length, and all I can do is just sit there and cringe. But not quite as much as I cringed during this set of dialogue.
You're a lost toy?
That's
awful.
Great, huh?
I mean, awfully great that you are lost out here.
Oh my god, just end me now. Throw me into the shredder and incinerate me already. Because dialogue is really hard to write these days, Woody and Bo do that thing where two characters have opposite views on something, and when one character realizes that, they retroactively change what they just said to fall in line with the beliefs of the other character. Which, aside from being a trope that pops up all the time and just makes you want to die.
Do you like Jell-O?
I love Jell-O.
I love Jell-O too. Oh, and peanut butter, right?
Oh, no, I am severely allergic to peanuts.
Hey, me too.
The reaction that that these two characters give doesn't make any sense at all given their previously established personalities. Obviously, Woody would say that being a lost toy is a bad thing, while Bo would view it as a good thing since she's had to acclimate to that lifestyle in the years that have passed since Toy Story 2. Now here's where you bungled over yourselves. You have Bo Peep acting surprised that Woody thinks that being a lost toy is a bad thing, which is absurd because she should know how loyal Woody is to his kid and would never, ever, in a million years, consider becoming a lost toy. Why would she think for even a second that Woody should view the life of a lost toy as a positive experience and react in the confused way that she does? And on Woody's side,
I mean, awfully great.
Jesus, who turned you into a walking doormat? You've never had a problem with speaking your mind to anybody. You've always been steadfast in your beliefs no matter how close you were to the person you were butting heads with. You never caved just because you were afraid of disagreeing with someone. So why magically now are you suddenly terrified at the very thought of Bo Peep having a different perspective on toy life than you? And don't even try to tell me that it makes sense for Woody to be afraid to disagree with Bo since he's in love with her, because if you think that is a rational counter-argument, then first off, you don't know how marriages work, and second off, even when talking to Bo in the first two movies, Woody still managed to have intelligent conversations with her even when they didn't see eye to eye about something, such as whether or not Andy would be willing to take him to cowboy camp without his hat. These characters haven't even been back together for a full minute and already their personalities have shattered. I am not watching Woody and Bo Peep reunite. I'm watching two emotionally constipated turtle ducks fumble over their words as they struggle to make basic eye contact with each other. It's embarrassing and just left me cringing out of existence. Moving on, this wonderfully heartwarming exchange of word salad is cut short when a random surprise skunk teleports into the scene and decides to run over our heroes, only for their fates to be averted as Bo uses her crook to upend the skunk and reveal it to be an RC car? And one that's being piloted by her sheep? Wait. How is this RC car merely a machine you're using as a means of transportation while the RC car from Andy's room is fully alive and sentient? They're both RC cars, what's the difference? You can bring a sport to life but not another RC car? This is why you don't mess with the rules of the Toy Story universe. Stop introducing all these new elements into the mix and mess everything up! Also, what do you mean the sheep are driving this thing? Remember 30 seconds ago when the sheep were on the playground and then ran away in the complete opposite direction from where the skunk appears in this scene? How did this happen? How did they get back to the Skunkmobile so quickly? Is the playground like a Pac-Man maze where you can just warp from one side of the screen to the other? Wait a minute, why did you even park the Skunkmobile so far away from the playground if you were making a pit stop here? None of this makes any sense. Oh, but wait, it's all about to get so much worse! Because we are moments away from Bo delivering her backstory monologue to us, and it's about to completely shatter this timeline of events. So the sheep jump out of the skunk and immediately start licking Woody, only for that enthusiasm to be immediately dashed to pieces when he fails to recall their 3 names. And they get pissed at the fact that he cannot recall their names, despite the fact that he literally didn't even know they had names until the exact day that they were taken from Andy's room, which was also the exact same day that he risked his life in a horrific thunderstorm to rescue RC. This was a very harrowing day for Woody. The names of the 3 sheep were nowhere near the top 10 things in his mind on that given day. But like I alluded to at the beginning of this analysis, the writers are going to rely on this plot point to make Woody look like complete garbage again later in this movie. So please remember this for later. The sheep bring Bo a paperclip, which she accepts because she says that some kids play rougher than others and she always tries to be prepared, which then prompts Woody to ask how long she's been on her own for, to which she responds,
7 fantastic years.
7?
Which, what? Okay, look, I am trying to be really fair to this film in my efforts to tear every aspect of it to shreds without remorse. So I've looked at every reasonable interpretation that you could possibly draw from this response, and every single one of them crumbles to pieces when compared against events elsewhere established in this universe, and even just lines later in this very movie. The Disney Plus short Lamp Life goes as follows. After leaving Andy's house, she is given to a different family where life sucks. Eventually, the new girls outgrow her, and she's given to 2 other families whose kids immediately declare that the lamp is for babies, leading to her being donated to different people to take her on a variety of adventures all around the world, from being a symbol to a disco lamp to an adventure of an unbreakable speckled band to becoming Snowman, before finally being thrown out and then subsequently adopted into the antique store family, ultimately deciding to break out of the store through a series of straight up nonsense and then settle into the playground as permanent lost toys. So, with all of that in mind, let's really think about this. If she means that it's been 7 years since she left Molly, then that is just straight up impossible because we know that it has been 9 years since that happened. There's also no way that she would describe these views as fantastic given the harrowing journey we saw her embark on throughout Lamp Life. And if she means that it's been 7 years since she stopped being owned by a family, then that can't work either because we know based on the progressing ages of these kids that she was with this family for far longer than 2 years. The only way this math works out is if she left them when the oldest turned 2 years old since she was a baby when she first arrived. But both girls are clearly way older than that here, so she must have been away from them for less than 7 years. And that logic is only further extended the further along her journey you get due to the nature of how time time works. It makes the most sense for Bo to mean that it has been 7 years since she left the antique store, since that would be when she was properly on her own. But that cannot possibly work with the timeline that you've presented us, because that means that she would have had to go through all these families and go on her globetrotting adventures in the span of 2 years, which is straight up impossible when she already spent more than 2 years with this first family as the girls grew up, and the fact that Bo Peep says later in the movie that she's been in the antique store for
a couple years.
Also, even if the timeline didn't render this impossible, are you seriously telling me that over the course of 7 years, not a single one of these kids wanted to bring her home with them when they left the playground? Seriously? Man, that's pretty lucky. Also, if you've just been sat at a playground every day for the past 7 years and you've never left, then why do you need a skunkmobile to get around? Where did you even find this thing? How did you assemble this? Did you just find a random taxidermized skunk, or did you murder a skunk to get this? Concurrently, did you find an old, abandoned, yet still perfectly functional RC engine, or did you murder another sentient toy to get this? Also, if it really has been 7 years since they left the antique store, then how has the shop owner not replaced the security system at any point throughout those 7 years? Also, this shop owner doesn't look like she's aged even a single day throughout those alleged 7 years. Did anybody pay attention to the continuity in this film? Was anybody supervising the script? We then meet Weeble Wobble. She does approximately diddly-do throughout this entire film, but remember, our old characters are stupid and lame and boring, and nobody liked them, so now we need a million new characters. Bo tells Weeble that this is the cowboy she told her about, and then they both talk about him very loudly, and yet Woody just stands there lost in thought as if he can't hear what they're saying when they're literally right next to him. Anyway, Weeble instantly jumps for joy upon noticing that Woody has a sheriff's badge, immediately identifying him as a member of law enforcement.
Whoa, you didn't tell me he was a cop. Howdy, Sheriff. Officer Giggle McDimples. I run Perpetual for Minneapolis.
Hey, remember when they did this in the first movie?
This is my spot, see? The bed here.
Local law enforcement. It's about time you got here. I'm Buzz Lightyear, Space Ranger, Universe Protection Unit. My ship has crash-landed here by mistake.
Yeah, well, we're doing it again. We're out of original ideas. Shut up and enjoy our film. We then immediately meet another new set of characters, the Combat Carl Brigade.
Combat Carl just heard there's a birthday party at the playground on Main Street. Rumor has it they got 2 piñatas.
Wait a minute, why are you all talking like normal Combat Carls? Remember in Toy Story of Terror when it was made crystal clear that the big ones talk normally, but the smaller ones have a higher pitched voice?
The only thing that's kept Combat Carl going is the thought he might see his owner Billy just one more time.
Try this again. 3rd time's the charm.
Oops, looks like you forgot your own story. Again. And you actually had a voice in this one. How are you this bad at keeping things consistent? Why did they hand you the keys to the Toy Story universe? You have no idea what you're doing. You can't be trusted to keep the little things consistent, and you certainly can't be trusted to keep the big things consistent. How did you get this job? Did they just run out of directors and the choices were you or Tree? Because if so, then I still think the Tree would have done the better job here. Anyway, the Carl Brigade reports in that there's a birthday party on the Main Street playground and invites Woody and Bo to join them, but he stops that plan dead in its tracks by declaring that he still has a kid, which seems to annoy Bo for some stupid reason. And so after they leave, she interrogates him about his new life and is excited to hear that he's with a little girl named Bonnie now. But that smile fades from her face immediately when Woody tells her that one of her toys, that being Forkface, has been kidnapped by Annabelle and he needs to get him back. She tells him that Second Chance Antiques is the place that she and Weeble broke out of, and that
we wasted years there just sitting on the shelf collecting dust.
And just like that, you've broken the timeline even more because you've already spent 2 of the 9 years with the first family, and then another set of years sitting around in the antique store. And it does not matter what the specific number is here, because even if it is as few as 2 years spent on that shelf, that already means that it is completely impossible for her to have spent 7 years on her own when added on top of the years spent shifting between families. And I'm sorry, but this doesn't make any sense at all. It is literally impossible with the timeline you've presented to us across both these pieces of media. I genuinely don't understand how this stuff happens. It's just basic math. We're not talking high-level calculus here, we're talking basic addition and subtraction. How do you keep screwing this basic stuff up? Was this movie written by kindergartners? Actually, no. To imply that is insulting to kindergartners, because at least addition and subtraction would be fresh in the kindergartners' minds. Moving on, hearing about Bo's time with the antique store fills Woody with joy at the thought of someone who knows the ins and outs of the store helping him on his quest, only for her to immediately shut him down by advising him to steer clear of Annabelle. He begs her to help him because Bonnie needs Forkface to get through kindergarten, only for her to then say in response,
Oh, kids lose toys every day. Bonnie will get over it.
and this is the point where my brain just wanted to explode, because Bo Peep would never have said this. She knows firsthand how important a single toy can be to a kid. She's seen it with her own eyes. Do you remember this line of dialogue from the first movie?
Oh, Woody. If only you could see how much Andy misses you.
Oh, right, I forgot. Consistency isn't something that you clowns are particularly skilled at. Hey, at least they remember that you need a remote to control an RC car this time, unlike the opening scene where they— Wait, what? Why is there a setting on this switch between off and on? It doesn't make it's a binary switch. The car's either off or it's on. That's how a binary switch works. It's literally in the name. 2 possible states, on or off. How do you bungle an on-off switch, you geriatric cabbages? So Woody attempts to appeal to Bo's time with Molly when trying to convince her to help him, saying that Bonnie needs Four-Face just like Molly needed Bo. This leads to Woody talking to Weevil about how Molly would cry every night because she was scared of the dark, but that as soon as Bo came into the room, she felt completely safe and would fall asleep with her hand resting on the lamp. I don't quite know how that would have happened when she would have been sleeping in a crib and couldn't possibly have reached the lamp, but whatever. And as he's telling the story, the camera is zooming in on Bo's face, her eyebrows arching as she reminisces on those years she spent in Andy's house, before finally smiling, reliving those wonderful memories of her time before a lost toy, remembering how good it was to be loved by a kid. Please don't forget this. Remember this for later. Do not let this get flushed out of your brain for even a second. This scene is going to be critical later. Moving on, this convinces Bo that Woody is correct about how much Bonnie needs Forkface and agrees to help him, so they all climb aboard the Skunkmobile and the quest to retrieve the neurotic sport from the evil Annabelle begins proper. Speaking of Annabelle, next up we cut back to the antique store where we see that Annabelle is painting over her freckles. The movie wants you to think that she's doing this because she wants to look her best, but it's really just so the animators have an excuse to flex their muscles and show off how detailed the character models are, even if you put a microscope out to the polygons. Chucky reattaches Forkface's arms and he makes these noises while doing so. So you moan and wail and cry while your arms are being tied back around your body, but when Woody somehow effortlessly ripped them off of your body, you didn't make a peep. Okay then. Now it is during this scene that we learn our villain's motivations. See, turns out that this girl from earlier, Harmony, is the kid that Annabelle wants to be with more than anything. She admires her so much that she outright says,
"My Harmony is perfect."
And stalks her like an absolute creep whenever she comes into the store, staring at her through the glass case as she plays pretend tea time. And I'm sorry, but if I were this little girl and I looked up for my toys to see this thing staring at me through the glass, I'm running the other direction as fast as my little legs can carry me because you were ripped straight out of a horror film. You have chosen a very stupid plan to get her to like you, Annabelle. Word of advice, everyone. If you like someone, don't stalk them, don't spy on them, don't creepily stare at them as they do their day-to-day activities. I promise you, it's not winning you any favors and it's just creepy. Anyway, this is why she needs Woody's voice box, so she can be just as perfect as she thinks Harmony is, because she doesn't think she would want to take her home if her voice box doesn't work. Now, we're gonna pin that one for the time being and come back to it later. I want to focus on something else for the time being. As Annabelle is stalking Harmony, she's also referencing her Prima official game guide for the teacup level of the Befriend Harmony video game and practicing tea time mannerisms such as how high to lift up her arm and to stick out her pinky? Why? Why are you practicing tea time? What is this gonna do for you? It doesn't make any sense for you to be practicing any particular techniques for tea time because even if you get a playtime with Harmony, anything you learn from your little book isn't gonna matter because you're gonna be in toy mode. You won't be alive. You can't move while you're in front of her. You will be entirely motionless. You will be at the beck and call of whatever kind of tea time she wants to have with you. Why are you wasting your time with this? Why are you wasting my time with this utterly pointless scene? What are you doing? the demo girl drawn in her book looks exactly like Harmony, from the hair color to the style to the dress to the headband. She's literally a one-to-one replica of the girl she's using as a reference in her book. I can't. What are the odds that they look this similar? Are you kidding me? Really? Anyway, we get this utterly laughable shot where Forkface puts his wobbly little hand on Annabelle's because for some reason he feels bad for her when she gives him the sob story about wanting Harmony to love her, despite the fact that she literally wants to rip Woody to pieces to get his voice box. And then a second later, she asks Forkface to tell her all about Woody and his history, which he's conveniently able to do because he made a Freudian slip earlier and said Annie's name instead of Bonnie. Remember when I said that was going to define the climax of this film? Yeah, we're getting there. Consider this your reminder to not forget this scene for later. Moving on, we're cutting back to the shooty bang bang carnival game that Buzz got stuck in earlier due to a series of insane garbage that had as much coherence as a pile of horse manure. He's currently trying to wrestle free of the zip tie that's keeping him secure to the wall, at which point we meet another set of two brand new characters, Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny. They're yelling at Buzz because he took their place as the top prize spot, therefore making it less likely for a kid to pick the two fluffy animals to take home when they could instead win their own Buzz Lightyear action figure. Luckily for them, Buzz doesn't want to be there either, and so he asks them to help him get out of there, and their response is,
I'll help you. With my foot.
And then they,
Ha! How you like that, cheater?
What? Why are you beating Buzz to a pulp? Why are you so mean to him both verbally and physically when not 2 seconds ago he just told you that he doesn't want to be there? He doesn't want to inconvenience you. He wants to leave. He's more than happy to give you back the top prize spot. Why are you kicking his head over and over again? He didn't do anything to you. Helping him leave would be only beneficial to your desires. Kicking the crap out of him doesn't help you at all. What are you doing? And why are you yelling so loudly and moving around so wildly when you are on display front and center in this carnival game? Any kid could walk up to this game at any moment and see you. Heck, anyone that just so happened to be passing by could easily overhear you or see you. Why do you not care about being noticed by people? Also, I know science and logic isn't exactly this film's strong suit, but Buzz's head would never bounce back this far. It basically goes inside himself at one point. Buzz isn't a ragdoll, he's an action figure. His head would never do this. Did you not test this out with a real Buzz Lightyear toy before you animated this? Or did you just throw all logic to the wind because you wanted a funny sound effect? awesome. Anyway, Buzz is in a little bit of a pickle once again, so I can't wait to see him use his brain to think of a clever solution.
How do I get out of here?
This planet is toxic. Closing helmet to conserve oxygen.
In a vacuum of space, they cannot hear you scream.
Buzz off with this trash. Stop doing this. Buzz is not stupid. He doesn't need his stupid voice box to tell him everything. Remember in the first movie when he was in a similar situation where he kept getting beaten up over and over again, so he closed his helmet to trap Woody's hand? And how he came up with that plan entirely by himself without pushing his stupid buttons? Did even a single one of you defective cactuses actually watch these movies before you wrote this script? Oh, whatever. Daffy unintentionally yanks him out of his zip tie, and then the sheer weight of Buzz causes the Looney Tunes to fall down from their tie, and Buzz runs away from the game to continue his quest to find Woody. Having owned a Buzz Lightyear as a kid, I can say with absolute confidence that his helmet is nowhere near sturdy enough to remain closed while Daffy tries to yank his foot free of Buzz, but fine, whatever, moving on. Now, this should be the best case scenario for our Looney Tune friends here. They are free from the confines of the Carnival game, which should make achieving their dream of finding a kid even easier than ever before. But instead, they say,
Back up there!
What? You wanted to put you back up there? Why? Buzz can't get your cotton-filled rear ends all the way back up there, especially not on his current mentally deficient state. Why do you even care about him anymore? Why does it have to be him? Remember what happened the last time this guy found a random toy on the ground? Just do the same thing here. Literally just plop yourselves down in front of him and he'll put you right back up there again. Or alternatively, here's an idea. Just go find your own kid. You're literally free now. You can go anywhere you want. Just keep going limp next to random kids until eventually one of them thinks that you're cool enough to take home. Why do you care about Buzz? Whatever, moving back to the incredible Skunkmobile, and I don't understand how these sheep are driving this stupid thing. Even if we accept that they have an acceptable field of vision by looking through this tiny little hole despite their eyes being nowhere near aligned with said hole, how in the world do these three heads have the necessary coordination to be able to steer this thing at all? Oh, and also this music plays. Feel nostalgia, being nostalgic. Remember the original movies and how much you love them so that you'll transfer that love to our movie without even thinking about it at all. Anyway, the sheep crashed the skunk underneath the carousel, resulting in one of the tires falling off. Please remember this for later. And when Bo tries to help get Woody to his feet, she...
I'm fine. I'm fine. Don't worry. It happens all the time.
This happens all the time. Presumably with more limbs than just your right arm, since we can also see some kind of band-aid substitute on your left wrist. And yet the force of a mechanical spring launching forward wasn't enough to rip your arm off. Okay then. Now, look, we don't actually know definitively what event caused her to lose her arm. We can take a pretty solid guess that it happened when she was being played with at the playground. She had both arms firmly attached when she left the antique store, so the accident must have happened between then and now, and all she's done in that time period is hang around the playground, meaning that one of the kids must have played with her a little too rough and caused her arm to shatter. Putting aside the probability of that being the only part of her body to suffer an injury, I find it absolutely ridiculous that your arm couldn't withstand that, but you were completely unaffected by this scene. Also, I don't even buy the idea that this tape would fix her up at all. First of all, this appears to be a roll of ace adhesive bandages, not what you traditionally think of as
Tape!
Even then, with the amount of acrobatics Bo Peep is about to engage in throughout this film, you'd need super glue in order for this to work properly, and even then I'm not sure that'd be enough to support her throughout all of this. Second of all, you explicitly state that
Happens all the time.
and yet you keep using the exact same kind of tape? If this really happens all the time, then why don't you try a different method of reattaching your arm? How about you go on a supply run in your Skunkmobile for some super glue like I mentioned? Third, and most importantly, even if this was strong enough to actually support her arm, if the idea here is that reattaching your limb will allow you to regain control of your hand, then this shouldn't work anyway because tape doesn't stitch things together. The Collector and Andy literally had to stitch Woody's arm back together in order to fix him in Toy Story 2. If you rip something in two and then touch the two halves together, you've not reattached the pieces, you simply applied a band-aid to the problem. The only toys that have control of their limbs when not attached to their bodies are Mr. Potato Head and Mrs. Potato Head because they are toys that are designed to be taken apart and put back together. Bo Peep isn't even supposed to be a toy that children play with. She's supposed to be a solid lamp figurine. It doesn't make any sense that taping her arm back together would allow her fingers to start working again when we know that you lose control of that limb based on what happens in Toy Story 2. Did anybody actually watch these films before you wrote the script? Why did you even do this in the first place? The only thing ripping her arm off surfaces is a quick and stupid joke. There was no point. Every time you think you're making a funny little joke, you're just dealing more damage to the script, whether it be through the world building, the characters, or the plot. Stop doing this, you useless blob of Play-Doh. Moving on, Bo and Weeble bounce up a few steps and then stop to have a chat. Weeble suspects that Bo has feelings for Woody and warns her not to pursue them because he's got a kid, and also hints that she wanted a similar relationship with He-Man, and literally, who cares, let's just move on. Woody climbs up next to them, and then they do the thing where a character walks into the scene as people finish gossiping about them, and then they go, "Hey, what are you guys talking about, lol?" And you just want to die. Did Woody seriously not hear them talking about him at all while he was climbing up the steps? Really? Also, why did you even bother coming up here at all? As soon as you fix up your arm, you immediately abandon the position and head off in a completely different direction. What was the point of coming up here in the first place? What, so you could sneak in a He-Man reference? Was that it? Because it's not like you couldn't have fixed your arm down there. What was the point? Why did you bother? I can't. Anyway, Bo grabs a sticky hand and uses it as a makeshift grappling hook to launch herself up to the top of the carousel. I find it to be a bit of a stretch, if you will, that this thing would reach all the way from the bottom of the carousel to the top. They cheat with the shots, again, by not actually showing the projectile reach the top and just cutting from the bottom to the top. But are you aware of how ridiculously tall this carousel is from the perspective of a toy and how little a chance you have of reaching the top from the bottom? Tell you what, get a real sticky hand and see if you can launch it to the top of a carousel from the ground. Let me know how that works out for you. Spoiler alert, it won't. This movie is full of baloney. So then Bo tells the sob story of how she went from another family to where she is now, and Woody expresses sympathy for her, only for her to then say in response,
Who needs a kid's room when you can have all of this?
implying that Woody could have so much more than just a kid's room if he were a lost toy like Bo was. Which is hilarious when you realize that, first of all, we learn later that this is a traveling carnival that moves all over the country and it wasn't at this location until recently, and Bo hasn't left the vicinity of the antique store since she became a lost toy, so her life has been confined to a single playground, which is just the same as being confined to a kid's room, only now you have a better view and you're covered in sand. But secondly, and more importantly, Woody is currently in the exact same marvelous location as Bo Peep is, despite him being owned by a kid. Oops. It's almost as if you aren't confined to a kid's room for your entire life, as evidenced by the adventures of the first 3 movies. But the writers don't want you to think about those. They want you to forget they ever happened. They really want you to forget all about those movies. In fact, the finale of this film is dependent on your memory being so pathetic that you can't remember what happened in those movies. But perhaps I'm getting ahead of myself again. So then they stare into each other's eyes for a few seconds, and then the journey to reach the antique store begins. How do they plan on reaching the store, you find yourself asking? Well, it's simple. They're gonna jump across the carnival tents to stay out of sight of the people below so they can reach the store. Which, putting aside the fact that it is absolutely absurd not a single person saw them do this, especially when Woody nearly slipped off the roof in full view of everyone and their shadows can clearly be seen from beneath, riddle me this. They plan to reach the store by bouncing across the carnival. So how exactly do they plan to get from here to here? Literally, how are they gonna do this? The Carousel and delivery truck are on completely opposite sides of the street. You cannot tell me with a straight face that you think it makes any sense at all for these toys to be able to jump from here to here. Nor can you tell me that they managed to stealthily walk across the street. There aren't any traffic cones they can use to their advantage this time. Oh, but it's alright because we can just wait a few more seconds to see how they're gonna cross this gap. Nope! They immediately cut away, and the next time we see them, they've made it on top of the truck. You cheated! Again! You keep presenting characters in one situation, cutting away, and then the next time they appear in a shot, their situation is radically changed despite the connecting tissue making absolutely no sense. This can't work. They never could have possibly made this jump. Okay, whatever. Maybe we'll get a little bit of a break from deceptive cinematography for a while. Buzz appears between flower beds outside the antique shop, wondering where the highway exit is, so he pushes the button on his chest to tell him what to do, causing him to look up towards the sky and see Woody, Bo, and the sheep leaping from the top of the truck onto the roof of the store. What? What just happened? Why did you, again? Oh my God, please, can we please go 5 seconds without everything breaking? This shot lasts less than 10 seconds and everything about it is broken. First of all, they cheated. Again. They want you to think they managed to jump from this truck to the roof of the antique store. But that doesn't make any sense. Do you remember the shot that we just saw 5 seconds ago? This truck is not as tall as the antique store. And there is no ledge that they could jump onto to climb even higher. And even if there was, there's no way they climbed from there to there. Especially not the stupid sheep. But they angle the camera the way that they did and cut from this shot to trick you into thinking that this makes any sense at all when it just doesn't. Second of all, again, you made Buzz push the stupid buttons on his chest again. He doesn't need to do this. We went over this already. What are you people doing? Third, really? Buzz just so happened to find out where Woody and Bo Peep were because he just so happened to push his button seconds before they jumped, which just so happened to play the exact voice line that would tell him to look in the exact location they needed to see them jump. It's all luck. That's all the script is. It's just a constant flood of luck and contrivance in every direction. Of all the potential voice lines, it played this one.
Meteor shower, look out!
Of all the times he could have pressed it, he chose to do so literally seconds before the only window of time he would have had to see Woody and Bo jump. This script is running on nothing but contrivance at every opportunity, not even mentioning the fact that Buzz got nothing more than a passing glance at the blob leaping through the air and thankfully managed to immediately identify him as Woody. Are you kidding me? Fourth, and most importantly, how did you even get here? Even if you managed to somehow sneak your way through the crowds of the carnival, how did you get across the street without anybody seeing you? And I swear to God, if you are going to tell me?
If movies showed us every single second that happened during the span of the story, they would be 40 hours long and really f***ing boring.
Shut up, you ridiculous monkey wrench. Unlike what Zack Snyder wants you to believe, you do not physically need to show the entirety of Buzz walking across the street with every single goddamn step to know how he made it across. You know, it's funny how Toy Story 2 managed to do that with no problem whatsoever by simply showing Buzz arrive at Al's apartment with the cone over his head, immediately communicating to the audience how he crossed the street without having to actually show it. But there is no such thing in Toy Story 4. The film keeps cheating. It keeps teleporting characters to the exact positions they need to be in all the goddamn time. And wait a minute, why did you even try to get here? Why would you have left the vicinity of the carnival without first trying to figure out which direction the highway is in? Why did you stop in front of this random antique store first? Oh my god, none of this makes any sense. Who wrote this? Okay, moving on. Woody, Bo, and the sheep climb on top of the antique store. Somehow. Please don't ask me how they pulled this off when there are no ledges or anything they could possibly grab onto when she left the sticky hand behind, and they have no rope, because I have absolutely no idea how they could have possibly pulled this off. Then Woody tells Bo that the whole gang is still together, except for her, of course, and upon turning around to face Woody, she notices that Buzz has joined them on the roof. What? How? How do you people keep getting up here? It doesn't even make any sense for Woody and Bo to get up here, and they had the height advantage of being on top of a truck. How in the name of your makers did you climb up here? How did no one see you? What did you climb? Why does everyone keep teleporting all over the place in this movie?
My old moving buddy.
See, this is a blatant attempt by the writers to trick you into thinking that they actually care about the original trilogy of movies because it's supposed to be a reference to this line.
I found my moving buddy.
Except that makes no sense at all because they obviously couldn't end up being moving buddies since Bo and the gang rode to Andy's house in the moving van and Buzz rode to the new house with Woody in Andy's mom's car. How do you screw up something this simple? They have tried to convince you that they are super fans of this series by referencing one single line from the first movie that they think only hardcore viewers would remember. But what they failed to realize is that in doing so, they are directly contradicting events which take place during major scenes that everyone remembers. It doesn't even make any sense in-universe for Bo to remember Buzz as her old moving buddy, because aside from the fact that he literally wasn't her moving buddy, they spent half a decade in the same room before she was taken away by this guy. Why in the world would this be the first thing to come to her mind when she sees Buzz Lightyear after everything they've been through? But they clearly don't want you to think too much about this, because seconds after Bo rushes to hug Buzz, Daffy and Bugs teleport into the scene and tackle Buzz down to the roof. What? How did you get up here? Why does everyone keep teleporting all over the place in this movie? But that's not even the worst part of the scene. Aside from the fact that it makes no sense for these two to be pissed off at Buzz, aside from the fact that there's no way they could have possibly tracked him down given the massive head start that he had while they were twiddling around stuck in the game booth, aside from the fact that there's no way Buzz should have been surprised by their presence if they were this close behind him, and aside from the fact that there's no way they could have scaled the building as quickly as Buzz did, since, remember, Buzz started climbing shortly after Woody and Bo landed on the roof, and the next shot picks up with them landing on the roof, meaning it took Buzz all of 20 seconds to get up here, and the Looney Tunes wouldn't have started climbing until they saw him go up there, meaning that it had to take them less time to do that when they are literally attached to each other and clearly lack the basic coordination to do just about anything. Aside from all that, Buzz is being beaten to a pulp by these two toys out for revenge, and Woody is just sitting around on his rear end doing sweet bugger all? Hey, ding dong, that is Buzz Lightyear, you know? The guy who you promised you'd be with for infinity and beyond? The guy who you risked your life to save several times throughout this series? Such as when you thought he was being torn to shreds by Sid's toys, or when Sid was gonna blow him up in a grand spectacle, or when Scud was trying to eat him, or when the Prospector attacked him, or when he was under Lotso's control, or when he was trapped under a TV? Why are you sitting around twiddling your thumbs while he's being insulted by the Looney Tunes? Listen to this trash!
All right, now, come on, stop it. Cut it out now.
Come on, guys, break it up.
What are you doing? Who are you? You know that detention proctor in Spider-Man Homecoming who tries to stop Peter from leaving detention?
Hey, where you going? Get back here.
And it's like a joke? Well, that's literally this scene, except it's not for the funny ha-has, it's for real. Woody is literally just standing around staring at Buzz as he gets the batteries beaten out of him by these two plush abominations. And the most amount of effort that he's willing to put in to help his friend is...
All right, now, come on, stop it. Cut it out now.
Buzz off, you stupid movie. You don't know who these characters are. You don't know how they would act around each other. You don't have even the most basic understanding of this series. And to think we're only halfway through this film, oh my god, just make it stop. No, I can't. I can't do any more today. We have to call it quits right here or my head might actually explode. We've reached the halfway point. That's good enough for today. Especially since we're about to enter the antique store and properly begin the mission to rescue Forkface. And once this rescue gets underway, we're not gonna have a moment to breathe with how much is about to break. So you'd all better brace yourselves. We got one wild ride ahead of us. Thanks for watching, everyone, and hope to see you all next weekend for the next episode of How Toy Story 4 Destroyed Everything. Goodbye!